how the pressure sensor on the passenger seat works. So we're not even going to use this at all. Alright, what's up guys? We're back with another video, and today we're going to be installing some racing seats in the Subaru and a couple of key points. We're going to bypass the passenger occupancy system so that the airbag is always on. And we're going to install airbag seat cancelers as well, so that we don't get any lights on the dashboard. So let's get started. Alright, so first and foremost, we're going to pull the seats out. Very straightforward process. There's going to be 4 bolts, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. If you've got power seats, you're going to need to leave the battery connected before you undo the bolts. Since I've got manual seats, I'm just going to use it by hand. So slide the seat all the way back. There's 2 14 millimeters. I'm going to zip that out. Alright, so then you're going to see these 2 plastic trims. They come off real easy. And pull back like this, so it'll come right off. Same thing with this side. You may wish to save these. I'm probably just going to get rid of them all together because I'm not 100% sure if the Corbeau seat brackets are going to have these fit on there. Alright, this bolt is going to be a little bit tighter than the rest because this bolt goes all the way through to the underside of the car. So if you're in the north where stuff rusts, you might run into a problem with that. So be prepared for that. Belt buckle reminder. 1. Alright, so again, this car doesn't have power seats. If you got power seats, you may have more, but right now for this, I only have 2 connectors on this side. So let's pull this seat out of here. Oh, that's heavy. Way heavier than the new ones. Alright, it's 206 on the dot. Alright, so I'm 159.2. I gained slight weight from the last video, 0.2 pounds. And the seat was 206 even, which is a difference of 45.8 pounds. So the stock seats weigh 45.8 pounds. Alright, so next, the only thing we gotta take off the driver's seat is the seatbelt buckle. If you're running harnesses, you don't even have to do that, but I'm not yet, so we're gonna pop this off. That's a T50 Torx there. Then we got a couple of clips we're gonna have to pop off. So if you're running harnesses, you don't even need this, but the thing that's tricky is I thought this was just gonna be an open-closed electrical switch. It's actually much more sophisticated than that. This has something like a Hall effect sensor inside here with a magnet, and when you put the buckle in, it'll actually pulse a square wave to the module to let it know that the seatbelt is buckled in. So it's going to be very difficult to emulate that. That may just be for the passenger side. I'm not 100% sure, but for now we're leaving the seatbelt buckles because we're not quite ready to tackle that. Alright, so in order to get these seat brackets on the base of the seat, we're doing bottom mount. These seats have options for side mount too, which is even easier. But for a bottom mount, you got to hold this, slide it all the way forward. And then once you get the 2 forward bolts in, you have to slide all the way back and then put the 2 rear bolts in. So let's get started with these. Alright, so 188.4. Alright, so I weighed myself at 159.2 and I weighed 206 with the stock seat. That means the stock seat weighs 45.8 pounds. Again, I weighed 159.2 with the Corbeau seat. With the seat rail installed, we weighed 188.4. So the Corbeau seat weighs 28.8, which is a 17-pound loss per side, which is 34 total. Alright, so these are my seat airbag cancelers. This is going to simulate the airbag so that it does not. So if you haven't seen that other video, feel free to watch that. That's going to simulate the airbag. So the car is going to think the airbag is connected, because if you leave this unplugged, it's going to trigger the airbag light, and if you're putting in racing seats, chances are there's no airbags in those seats. So we got to do something with this connector, and this is what we're doing. So let me get that soldered up. This is going to plug into our seat belt, and then that seat, driver's seat's ready to go right back in. So that's just going to plug in right there. Simple as that. So let's get this in there and get started on that. Alright, let's load this baby in there very carefully. Actually, I want to zip tie this down also. Alright, now what we did was we bolted this seat belt on like how it was on the original seat, and it didn't fit in the car. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this bolt out, flip it, and then bolt the seat belt on this side with the bolt coming up this way. So we're going to do that. It won't be hard. All we got to do is cut this little flimsy washer right here that's holding the bolt on. Shouldn't be hard at all. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to mount this on this side. I'll put this in here. We're going to mount this just like that. So what we had to do here was, originally the bolt went in this way and the seat belt was on the top side, but this actually hit the center of the car, the transmission tunnel. So we had to take the bolt out, flip it over, put it the other way through the other side, and now we're going to trim off the excess here so that it can fit in the car. So we're going to do that with this. And of course we've got the seat wrapped back up so that it stays clean. Alright, so here we're working on the passenger seat. This is going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, I already did some testing, so this wire, don't mind that. I was looking at voltages with and without a passenger in the seat to try and figure out what this module is going to want to see. Now you can see we got two black plastic clips. You're going to need to pop those off to lift this up. Once that's out of the way, we're going to actually want to drill out these two rivets underneath of here to get this out. But first, I'm going to pull all these connectors out of here so that everything is out of the way. Okay, so this harness, you're going to need to save that. I'm going to drill out these rivets. This is our passenger occupancy module. So we're going to want to keep this. It's going to plug in here. And this connector here, this 6-pin connector, is going to plug into the car. This is going to plug into the seat belt. And this is going to plug into the bladder, the actual sensor. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to bypass this completely using resistors. If it doesn't work, this bladder will come out of here very easily. I'll show you how to do that right now. We got 4 white plastic clips that look like this. They just pull right off. Once you get those off, this whole seat cushion pulls up. And then this will just pull right out. Watch these corners here. They're going to pulled out of there. If you want to put this under the seat cushion, you can, but I'm going to try to avoid doing that. Alright, so I drew up the basic electrical schematic of how the pressure sensor on the passenger seat works. It works on the principles of a basic potentiometer, although it's a pressure transducer. It's the same exact operation. Now, with no one in the seat, this signal wire in the middle where I labeled it S, that's going to see 4 volts when no one's in the seat. I did some testing, and with someone in the seat, it's going to see about 2 volts. And you can see here it's a 5 volt. What the way it works is 5 volts comes in on this left wire here, and then it goes through a resistance inside the pressure sensor. And the resistance is going to, this middle needle here is going to change depending on how much pressure that pressure sensor is reading. So with no pressure, it's reading 4 volts. So we want it to read 2 volts, so we essentially have to mimic that resistance curve. And what I got down here is a 2.2K resistor and a 1.6K resistor, and that would give you a total resistance of 3.8K, which is 3,800 ohms resistance. Now, I only had a 2.2, a 1.5, and a 100, so I essentially wired the two on the right side in series. So this is a 2.2K ohm resistor, this is a 1.5K ohm resistor, and this is a 100 ohm resistor. So with these 3 pins plugged into the connector, just like that, this middle sensor wire is going to read 2 volts, and that's going to turn the airbag on as if someone's sitting in that seat. So I'm going to cut these wires, and I'm going to solder those pins onto the wires directly, and then install the harness into the car. Alright, so I drew a simplified drawing to help you better understand what's going on here. So that's the connector for the pressure sensor for the passenger seat, where it connects to the bladder and all that. Now, I basically just tried to draw it. Obviously, I can't draw, but you've got a 5 volt reference wire, a signal wire, and a ground wire. And that's what I drew here. Now, this is the connector. Now, these are the resistors you want to use. A 2.2K ohm on the 5 volt to the signal, and then a 1.6K ohm from the signal to the ground. But I used 3 resistors because I didn't have a 1.6K, so instead I used a 1.5K plus 100, which equals 1600. But that's the values that you want, and that'll give about 2 volts to the signal wire, in which case it will turn the passenger airbag on all the time, and it will think that there's always somebody in that seat. Alright, so it looks absolutely terrible, but all the resistors are wired in. I've got the module zip tied in place, nice and sturdy. I've got a little piece of styrofoam underneath so it's held down, locked in tight. And now I just need to connect a couple more wires, and the seat's ready to go in. Now this is going to connect to here. This is a lot of bulk to sit under the seat. There we go. And that's why zip ties are your friend, so you can get all this stuff out of the way. I'm going to put a zip tie right through there, hold that there. Now the only wire that's not going to connect right now is this one here, and that's going to go to the seat belt. So we're going to install this onto the other seat, and then it just plugs in here. So let me get some more zip ties on here to hold everything snug, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so we got everything zip tied and tightened up. This is our seat belt connector coming off the seat, and that's what that needs to plug into. So I'm just going to connect that, and then on one hand. Okay, now let's bolt the seat in. Alright, now the method that I found works best is hand tighten the front 2 bolts first, and then tighten the rears, put the rears in, tighten them all the way, and then come back to the fronts and tighten them the rest of the way. That's the best way to do it, to make the holes all line up and to make it easiest. So it's all done. Alright, seats are installed. Looking good. Now, because I bypassed the weight sensor, passenger airbag is on, and the seat belt needs to be buckled. But I'm gonna see if I can bypass that chime by doing the 20 click thing. But all right.